Welcome to the AC 24/7 Top Story Countdown. We'll guide you through the biggest news of the day. Our focus, advocating our rights, advocating equality, advocating health, and advocating Earth. Here's our pick for number 4.
While Americans' Black Friday and Cyber Monday spending hit record levels online, Adobe Analytics found consumers made a record amount of buy now, pay later installment purchases.
You spread out your payments over time, and retailers partner with different services to do that. And that's something that's compelling these days for shoppers because credit card interest rates are super high.
Adobe Analytics said buy now, pay later purchases soared 43% over 1 year ago. Lisa Gill of Consumer Reports says it's important to know the terms of each third-party servicer, including late fees.
Read that little fine print about what you're getting into and make sure that there's no interest fee, there's no loan fee, and that understand what those late fees are all about.
Research from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York found buy now, pay later plans disproportionately used by financially fragile consumers, including those with low credit scores or unmet credit needs. Gill says it's key to stay on top of what's owed, since delinquencies can end up in collections and on a credit report.
It's very easy once you start doing buy now, pay later on one purchase to do it on another, and then on another, and then on another. And we found that the more loans that people had taken out, the more likely they were going to have problems making payments or making payments on time.
And for larger purchases like computers or televisions, using a credit card may give greater protection in the event of a damaged or lost item or an item that needs to be returned. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
TheAdvocateChannel.com looks at the world through the lens of equality and inclusion. Subscribe, like, and share now. AC 24/7's Top Story Countdown continues with our producer's pick for number 3.
A gift at the gas pump just in time for the holidays. Gas prices are still dropping and leaving more jingle in consumers' pockets.
It's the longest decline that we've seen since the summer of 2022.
Despite a series of threats that suggested the opposite could happen, gas prices have now fallen every day since their peak on September 18th. According to AAA, that's a streak of more than 61 consecutive days. That significant drop comes despite Russia's ongoing war on Ukraine and the Israel-Hamas conflict.
That's the good news for the next few months. The bad news is that if Middle East tensions remain high into the first quarter of 2024, then you'll see gasoline prices move up independently of crude.
According to AAA, the average price for a gallon of regular gas stood at $3.25 on Wednesday. That's down 25 cents from a month ago. Right now, 15 states are averaging $3 or less for a gallon of gas, according to AAA. And there are now more than 20,000 gas stations selling gas at $2.75 a gallon or less. That's according to Gas Buddy, which says you can expect those low prices for the next several months.
I do expect that between now and, say, Valentine's Day of next year, gas prices should be in the low $3 range nationally, with many states falling below that $3 a gallon mark.
Meanwhile, OPEC and its allies have a critical meeting scheduled this week, and experts say the outcome of that gathering could impact prices at your local gas station.
That OPEC meeting could hold the key to future gas prices.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Mike Valerio.
Like the Advocate Channel on Facebook for the best way to get updated stories that advocate for equality, justice, our rights, and more. AC 24/7 continues with today's top 2 pick.
There isn't much left to retrieve from the moonscape that was Zahra City in central Gaza. Just some scraps of wood pulled from the ruins, the odds and ends that were once people's lives. We've come to get what we can, says Amjad Ashanti. The kids' things, our clothing, whatever we can get from under the rubble. Here, I found this, my daughter's toy. No one can live here anymore. The destruction, total. Life in Gaza has been reduced to the basics, a pre-industrial existence where people have become hewers of wood where they can find it. And drawers of water, even if that water is barely potable. Bassem El-Attar goes out early every day to collect the firewood his wife uses to prepare meals. The United Nations estimates around 80% of Gaza's population has been displaced. More than 1 million jammed into schools, converted into shelters. People here are living on top of one another, says Bassem. The place is full of filth. All these kids are going to get sick. The World Health Organization reports that without adequate hygiene, health care, and food, disease is spreading. Bassem's wife, Khitam, tears up the daily bread, old and stale, to be made into a thin soup with lentils. We used to feed this to the sheep. Now we give it to the children, she says. There's no more room at this school in Maghazi, central Gaza. Shadi and her extended family of more than 20 sleep in the back of a truck, protected from the elements by a plastic tarp. She fled from northern Gaza with only what she could carry, desperate now to find enough food to feed her children. When my son tells me I'm hungry, what can I say, she asks. We try, but we can't find anything. Our life is hard. Hard, perhaps, is an understatement. Welcome to the apocalypse. Now.
Follow the Advocate channel on Twitter and Instagram to stay updated on stories that matter every day. We're now at our #1 story of the day. Take a look.
This Culture of Respect report obtained by CNN was based on interviews with hundreds of Coast Guard employees in 2015. Among the alarming conclusions, Coast Guard personnel accept poor behavior as status quo. The Coast Guard does not provide sufficient measures to prevent sexual assault, and Coast Guard personnel have been discriminated against and sexually harassed. It's been kept from the public, dubbed for official use only. The front page saying it should be disseminated only on a need-to-know basis and kept in a locked container. The report describes the failures of Coast Guard leadership, claiming leaders are not fully aware of perpetrator-predator characteristics and have allowed Coast Guard members to escape accountability. In one example cited, a military member was reduced in rank and asked to leave the service after being involved in a sexual harassment complaint, only to be hired later by the Coast Guard as a supervisor, and was even accepted as a victim advocate into the Coast Guard's program for sexual assault victims.
I have experienced racism, and as a Black queer woman, I've experienced harassment.
Retired Coast Guard commander and whistleblower Kimberly Young McClear is one of the people who knew the report existed and has pushed for its release for years.
I and many of us were very angry and very upset that this was a document that spelled out exactly what the culture was, provided a roadmap of how we can improve the culture, and the Coast Guard sat on it, and then they buried it.
In 2019, Young McClear even testified in front of Congress about the toxic culture in the Coast Guard.
If they had implemented the vast majority of the recommendations, that it absolutely could have prevented what happened to me, and not just me, what continues to happen across the entire U.S. Coast Guard.
Yet, the Coast Guard and the Department of Homeland Security have for years refused to release the report publicly. And keep in mind, this newly uncovered report was written 4 years before another internal Coast Guard report that was kept secret until a CNN investigation last summer. Dubbed Operation Fouled Anchor, it substantiated dozens of rapes at the Coast Guard Academy.
I again apologize to each victim, survivor, their loved ones. We failed to provide the safe environment that every member of the Coast Guard deserves.
The problems outlined in both reports still persist, according to dozens of recent and current Coast Guard employees who have spoken with CNN. They worry that change will not happen in the future until the Coast Guard confronts its past.
In order to improve the culture, they have to acknowledge what the culture actually is.
Thanks for watching the Advocate Channel's top stories. We're on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Follow, like, and share, or check out advocatechannel.com for even more stories that advocate for you.